Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm scrambling to get everything ready and set up for this morning's show. We're glad you're with us. We got a big show lineup, a special guest here, some really good, neat stuff that this young man's been doing. But let's look at our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center. We're looking at a high today of 89 and a low of 78. It's this summertime weather with flat shore in it right now. For the water temperature, we talked about it a lot yesterday and all last week. It was 88 yesterday, 88.5 today. That's pretty warm. That's doggone. It's not going to get much warmer than that now, so be ready for that. A lot of activity out there. River readings, that's what we're looking at. Apalachicola at Bluntstown is going down. And I've got some good reports. It's right under 8 foot now, 7.8. And the Choctaw at Caryville, it's gone down to all the way down to 4.8, and it's about to level off. So it's getting really good shape right now. Tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. We got good strong tides today. A high tide this morning at 8:15 and a low tide at 7:09. So we got a good situation there. Marine forecast south at about 6 to 9. So everything's shaping up. But we're going to have some afternoon thunderstorms now, so be aware of that. Try to get the outdoor activity in for a period of time. Do it in the mornings, okay? Take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Look who's here. Travis, good morning.
Good morning.
Listen, Travis, it's been a while since Travis has been on, but he's been on vacation, and we let him have off every now and then, but he had a great trip up there. So, Travis, we got a lot to do today, but let's talk about your trip you had. Tell us about it.
I had a great trip. Went up, saw the family in Michigan, had one of my cousins get married, and then I did something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I was supposed to do it last year, and then Hurricane Harvey came along and Irma, and wasn't able to get up there, but went fishing with my family up there to Canada.
Wow.
And they go every year. They've been wanting me to go for a while, and finally got to do it, and it was awesome.
Well, we got some pictures, so let's talk about it. This is a beautiful place here. So tell us about this first picture here.
That's just on the lake, one of the lakes there. We fished several different lakes around White River, Canada, and it was beautiful spring fishing. Not like spring fishing down here. It was chillier than it looks in that picture.
We got some pictures. I want to show y'all them. They're wrapped up and all, but this was here.
That was a real pretty lake. That one right there, you can see kind of the green water. They call that the green lake. It's crystal clear. I mean, crystal clear water. Yeah. That was just a beaver house there, but some of the fish we'll get into. There's my cousin with a nice walleye.
That's a walleye there.
They said that was a good one. It was 29 inches long.
Wow.
So you can imagine a little bit bigger than a slot redfish.
The first thing I noticed when I started seeing the pictures, y'all are wrapped up. Was it cool up there?
It was chilly.
Was it really?
Yes, sir. It sure was.
Here in June.
Yes, in June. Like I was saying, that first day, high 43, 20, 25 knot north wind and raining. But it got better after that. But we fished right through it, and that was a good fish there. That's just kind of going in between a couple of lakes there, just real pretty.
You don't see many condos up there, do you?
You don't see nothing, man. I mean, you drive for 2 or 3 hours. There's not a town, a gas station. There's my uncle with a nice walleye. Caught that on a jig.
Okay.
And
that's beautiful, like a movie scene.
Yeah, it's awesome up there. And you got the whole lake to yourself.
What size of boat and all did y'all go?
It was a little like about a 15 foot.
Okay.
And then they had like a 15 horse that we troll around with. And there's a northern pike. That was the two fish we targeted were walleye and northern pike.
Okay, here, that's a great picture right there. That's a wall framer.
Yeah, and he, they hit, those pike will hit about anything, but X-Raps, Rapala, spoons, caught that on a minnow, a live bait out there, so. Nice. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was just, hey, just get out there and fish, and you're out in the wilderness.
You're telling me they're hardcore fishermen, huh?
They are. Now they get up early and they'll fish hard. Now when they come down here, I would take them saltwater, and they kept talking about Candy. You need to come up. So that was a pretty nice pike there that my uncle caught, starting to get bigger. I mean, those pike will get up to 49, 50 inches long.
I didn't realize they got all that big.
They get really big.
Okay, then we got.
Yeah, it's just beautiful up there, man. I mean, rivers and stuff.
That's cool.
It was a great trip. It was pretty chilly, pretty good fishing, and then the camaraderie, getting to spend time with my uncles and cousins and grandpas. So.
And y'all stayed in a cabin up there?
We did. Yeah. We did. We stayed in a little cabin, and then they brought their own boats up.
Briefly tell us about, you were telling me about the regulations up there. We think we got them complicated here, but you were telling me something I couldn't do it.
Hey, they're tough. I mean they're restrictive, I should say that. Yeah. I got the booklet for Fishing Ontario, and they have slot limits on a lot of their fish, like we have on some of ours. There's certain ways you can package your fish for bringing it back, and then each body of water sometimes has a different regulation. There's closed seasons, like we have on our reef fish. They have that for like the walleye when they spawn in certain areas, and so it gave me some perspective for people coming coming from out of town and trying to fish and follow the regulation. Mm-hmm. And that's they've been going up there 15, 20 years plus. And they knew the rules, but and they follow the rules. But I said, hey, I just want to get a regulation to make sure, and it's kind of eye-opening to how restrictive it is. So, but I will say this: I talked to my uncle about it, and he said he's been going up there since he was a kid, and he said, the fishing was really good. Then there was a time it wasn't as good, and then they stepped in and put some more, restrictive measures on their fish, and he said it really improved the fishing. So it helped the fishery.
Yeah. That's a valid point. That's what we're doing here too, trying to keep everything in control. We got a lot more people fishing here than they got fishing up there.
Oh Lord, yeah.
And so you see that on a regular basis. So
well,
I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you had a great trip, and glad you mixed in outdoors with a trip with the family and all.
It was fun. Cool. It was a lot of fun.
All right, we got all kind of FWC stuff to go over. Let's go ahead and take a break now, and then we'll come back with our other stuff. I wish we had time. Welcome back, folks, to hear all these stories and all, but we're going to have to move on to FWC stuff. But again, the wildlife, and always had a lot of wildlife in Michigan, but you didn't get to see that much up there in Canada because
not near as much. It's just so remote,
and so we're spread out.
It is. Yeah. It's just woods and lakes everywhere. So.
Yeah, but you had a cousin saw some really big wolves. He did see that.
He did. He told me a story about that. Okay. Now he had seen that.
We'll have to tell that story next time. But okay, let's get back to business now. What's going on with? He's got some great notes here, so I'm gonna let you get started. Go ahead.
Oh, business is busy. We're in the busiest part of our summer boating season. And just want to talk a little bit about boating safety. It's been a while since I've been on here. Back in May, we had National Safe Boating Week, which we also do here in Florida, May 19th through May 25th. And what that is, we want to promote boating safety through awareness. And then the main thing is, I'm going to talk about several things associated with boating safety but wear your life jacket. Wear your life jacket, have a life jacket for everybody on your vessel that fits them and is the proper size for them. Florida leads the nation with nearly 1 million registered vessels, more than any other state in the union. And the main thing, the message we want to get out is life jackets save lives. In 2017, I'm going to go over a couple statistics here. We had 52% of our boating accident fatalities were due to drowning. And a lot of those could have been prevented with just wearing your life jacket. Sometimes you don't know when you're going to exit that boat. We have accidents all the time where people are ejected from a vessel if they don't have a life jacket on and they bump their head or they become unconscious. They're not gonna float. So I brought this life jacket here just to kind of show everyone. This is Type 2 recreational, Type 5 commercial, but this PFD, this is what we wear when we're on water patrol. And a lot of people, when they think about life jackets or they see them, they think of the big orange bulky ones and they're like, I'm not wearing that thing. Well, they have a lot of these now. This is a Mustang, but there's a lot of different brands. And the cool thing about this life jacket is once you wear it and you've got this sucker on, I mean, you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
And it could save your life. I mean, this thing, it's got a lot of different features to it. You can buy them at West Marine. I think Walmart has some now, but basically there's a compressed air in here. You can manually inflate it by pulling on this tab, or if this gets wet, it'll inflate on its own. There's also a thing, if any of those were to fail, you can actually manually inflate it here by blowing on that. When it pumps up, you've got when it does inflate, you've got a reflective tape there to make yourself high vis. On this side, there's a whistle, so it's a great tool. We're required to wear them while we're on water patrol, and like I said, a lot of people, when you're fishing and all, you're probably not going to wear something like this, but if you just were to wear this while you're underway, that would be the thing. I mean, when you're going across that bay, 30, 35, 40 miles an hour, it's the safest way to be on a boat, and it would just save a lot of lives. So we want to get that word out. One important thing to note about these personal flotation devices is per U.S. Coast Guard rules and regulations, that one only counts if you're wearing it. So if you're wearing this while you're running or while you're making way, and then you want to fish or do whatever, make sure you've got another life jacket to count for your life jackets if you want to take it off. But anyways, I just wanted to share that about life jackets, and then knowing your U.S. Coast Guard navigation rules. Our busiest, highest traffic area on the water is Grand Lagoon. I mean, it gets crazy out there, and you just need to know which way you need, as far as maintaining steerage way to the right, maintaining a proper lookout, operating at a safe speed for the conditions, knowing what to do when you're out there. That would just, it would again save a lot of lives and prevent a lot of accidents.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to go over, one more thing on boating safety is taking a boating safety ID course. If you're born on or before January 1st, 1988, then by law you need to take a boating safety course, but you can take one at any age. And that's going to go over a lot of these things like life jackets, navigation rules, lights, different things like that. So as we're moving into the boating season, we're seeing some accidents, and our main goal is we want to prevent those accidents, especially the serious ones. So anyways, just wanted to touch on that. So have you been hearing a lot of good stories on the water?
Well, we have, and like you say, the situation with the traffic and all, really, just more and more people out there. I know we had a recent incident where a guy fell out of a boat, and the boat went round and round, and the guy, the FWC or in the Coast Guard had to get control of the boat. And that goes back to the kill switch. If it had a kill switch on, it would just cut right off. So make sure, we're talking about this, that kill switch, when you go, like I said, underway, and make sure you have it on. I double check mine all the time, and even if I'm not going that far, I just put it on. That's important.
It is. Yeah, that would have prevented that right there.
Yeah.
So another thing we have going on, just kind of going on the tail end of boating safety stuff, is Operation Dry Water. That's going to focus on BUI enforcement. We've got that June 29th through July 1st. BUI is boating under the influence, and the main message we want to get out, we're going to be stepping up patrols. We'll have some officers and Coast Guard focusing on BUI enforcement during that weekend, but we have zero tolerance on that. If you come in the pass and you've got a snapper that's a 1/4 inch short or something like that, that's something we can use discretion on. Okay, when it comes to operating a vessel and you're impaired, there's no discretion. You will be taken to jail. You will be placed under arrest. It's not going to be a good day. And again, there's reasons for that, because it's just not safe. So anyways, there's no open container law on a vessel, which means anybody can drink on there. But the operator needs to be sober. So just make sure you have a sober operator. It's very important. And
as we're getting approaching July 4th, that's one of the busiest days on the water, and also probably we'll have more drunk drivers on the water then because of that. So y'all we need to all be careful. I personally do not get on the water on July 4th.
I don't blame you.
I just let the other goofballs have it.
Yep, I'm the same way. I mean, I'll be out there working, but as far as going out on a personal boat or something like that, I'm not going to go out there during that weekend. One thing on the BUI stuff, we just had that Billy Bowlegs Festival over in Fort Walton Beach, and just to show you what a problem it can be, we had over 600 vessels, personal vessels, recreational vessels on the water that day, and FWC worked it. We had some local PDs work at Coast Guard, and there were 18 BUI arrests just from that one event, one day.
In one day.
So it is an issue out there, and that's why we want to get the education out there and let people know that we have zero tolerance, and we're going to be looking for these things. So be careful out there, and just make sure you have a sober operator for your vessel.
Good deal. And that goes along the river system. We always talk about the bays and all, but it goes along the river system with those sandbar parties that we talked about, up in the rivers and all.
Absolutely.
Some of the same situations there, too.
It is. Yeah, same thing on freshwater. Econfina Creek, Apalachicola River, same thing. So, do you want to keep going? Or?
All right, what all you got on this section?
Well, we're going to finally talk about some fish stuff. Maybe we want to take a little break, or you want to keep
let's
going?
go ahead. Let's go and get some of the fish stuff.
Okay, good deal. I'll just go over kind of what reef fishing. We're always going to talk about that. I know you've had some good pictures sent in, and red snapper's been going on. Had some pretty rough weather last weekend. I saw a few people try to go out. I'm telling you, it was Saturday coming out of the pass. I mean, it was standing 5-footers, and I saw people going out. And you know, you never want to risk your safety for a fish. There's always a better day to go. But red snapper season, state charter, private recreational, it's going to be open till July 20th going on. Seeing great catches. A red snapper come in. Gag grouper for our area, it's open. I've seen some nice gags come in this year.
Yes.
It seemed a little bit better. The last few years it seemed like they've been down, but I've seen some really nice gag grouper come in. June 1st through December 31st. And then amberjack and triggerfish, while snapper's open there, in June and July, amberjack and triggerfish are going to be closed. They will reopen to harvest on August 1st.
Okay.
So if you catch an amberjack or triggerfish, you got to let him go. So, yeah, if you want, we can take a break.
Okay.
And then
let's go and take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So here with Travis. Let's do a fishing game times right now from Blue Water Outriggers, smack dab in the middle of the day, 11:35 to 1:35. Your viewers are good about sending me questions and all. A lot of times, if I don't know the answer, I'll call Travis. We had a question the other day about Spanish mackerel for bait. So, Travis, what about it?
All right, did a little research on that, and I know that is, I'm not going to say common practice, but I've seen people use them for bait. It's an oily fish. A lot of people like to use it for strip bait. They'll cut it up for reef fish or snapper or whatever. So I did some research on it. As far as the state rule, I don't see any rule that specifically addresses using Spanish for bait. However, if you say you catch a Spanish in February or March, okay, when they come through very thick, and you freeze that fish, and then you take that fish offshore in July when it's red snapper season, and you want to cut that fish up and use it for bait. So again, I don't see a rule as far as the state goes for using it for bait, but if you cut that fish up, you're going to leave it up to the discretion of the officer to determine when was that fish landed. Because it is a violation to fail to land a Spanish mackerel in whole condition, because it has a size limit, a bag limit.
Right.
It has to be available when an FWC officer comes along to inspect that fish and say, okay, this fish is greater than 12 inches, and we can count that they have no more than 15 Spanish per person.
I see. Okay.
So if I was to pull up on a boat and they had Spanish cut up into chunks and they're using it for bait, I would educate them on it. And then if I can determine, hey, there's a big old block of Spanish that's been frozen, it looks like it's been frozen from an earlier date, it looks like the fish has been landed, I would probably educate them on the rule. But if you've got Spanish fillets sitting on a cutting board, it's going to be very hard for that officer to determine when that fish was caught. You know, did you just catch that fish trolling out of the pass, you caught a king and a Spanish and you're cutting up the Spanish, or was that fish caught earlier? So again, I don't see a rule as far as using them for bait, but you would be in violation of failing to land that fish in whole condition if you have that fish cut up. So just something to know. Safest thing to do, I'll tell you another good bait is bonita.
Yeah, bonita,
you know,
and you can buy northern mackerel, which is almost the same thing.
Yep,
so, yeah,
you can. And they're both great baits too.
Bonita is good. Okay.
It is. So just want to go over that. We had a question on that. And then another question I've had that I want to talk about real quick is as far as overnight trips and bag limits.
Yes.
Okay, because I know some people, especially for snapper, they like to go out at night, especially around a full moon, and some people are very successful at doing that. So could you go out at 8 o'clock at night, then the next day when it becomes 1 o'clock, is that a new day? Well, I want to read this, what it says about bag limits, and then there are a few exceptions to having more than one daily bag limit in your possession. So the bag limits are set by a calendar day, and that's in a 24-hour period from midnight to midnight. Okay, these limits are also possession limits. So once you've caught and possessed the bag limit for that species, you cannot harvest more of that species until the next 24-hour period, if that makes sense. Yeah. Now the exception to that is if you can possess double the daily bag limit. So for instance, red snapper is 2, you could have 4 per person. If you're fishing on a headboat or charter boat and that trip spans more than 24 hours. Okay, and now that vessel needs to have a couple requirements. They need to have a sleeping berth for each passenger on board the vessel, and each passenger has to have a receipt saying I went on a 48-hour trip or whatever. It was more than 24 hours. Now there's species in this exemption. They include your snappers. I've got some others on here, amberjack, black sea bass, red grouper, but not all the species were listed here in the exception. So you can go online, go to myfwc.com for more info, but I've had a lot of questions on that, wondering, oh, we want to go out fishing for 2 or 3 days, maybe they have a big boat. It needs to be a charter. You have to have a receipt. You have to have sleeping berth for each passenger on board. So you have to follow these exceptions to that bag limit rule. Other than that, it's a 24-hour period for your bag limits.
And did you get us a case of the month?
I did. Over in Franklin County, I want to recognize Officer Nick Cossey and Officer David Travis. This one was a kind of a bigger violation when it comes to undersized oysters. You know, there's a percentage that they can have, and they were checking some commercial oystermen. They counted a bag of oysters, and the percentage of undersized, they actually had 70% undersized. So
70%?
Yeah, most of the bag was under.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were issued a citation, and just to show you a bag of oysters, you know how many oysters are in there, and that can vary a little bit, but 251 of them were undersized. They were returned alive back to the resource, so they were issued a citation for possession of undersized oysters.
Wow.
So 70%, that's pretty bad, but we've had a lot of BUIs made. As I mentioned, Billy Bowlegs, we've had other BUIs made, a lot of good reef fish cases made, both in state and federal waters, so our officers are doing a great job out there. It's been very busy, very busy last month and a half.
Okay, we don't have time to get into it. I'm going to cover this on tomorrow's show, but a lot of times on Friday nights, these kayakers are fishing the Hathaway Bridge and all. Everything going good out there? Or they've got to be lit up, right?
It is. They do have lighting requirements that they need, and we've had some complaints on that. That's something we've been working on because you know, kayak's considered a vessel. They have to have lighting just like, you know, a lot of our other vessels. So yeah, absolutely, they need to be lit up.
Okay. And also, we got to use just common courtesy in boating to wrap things up. Common courtesy, so many times, is missing on the water. You're right. Common courtesy isn't as common as it used to be, but yeah, use common courtesy and follow your navigation rules. Follow your navigation rules when you're in the channel, out of the channel, and know who has the right of way. I mean, there's a lot going on out there. So. Well, Travis, we're glad to have you back, buddy. Glad to be here. We're back to work now, and I know a good little vacation, great pictures and all. Oh, it was great. Thanks for letting me share it. All right, we'll see you next month. Any questions, y'all send them to me. We'll get a hold of Travis and get the answers. Y'all have a great day today. Enjoy the outdoors. Do something good for your fellow man, and God bless. Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.